Good evening, world. Steffi here with another episode of Soil and Soul. We've got Yoda accompanying me in the background. It is almost sundown here in Morgan, Vermont, and I'm bringing you day 2 of my 365 days of Soil and Soul. So today we have a couple topics. First of all, I wanted to just give a quick overview of what is soil. Why do we not want to use synthetic chemical fertilizers in our soil? And what else can we do other than chemical fertilizers to build up our soil? So many of us who don't garden for a hobby or who don't have to garden for our food, like if you've never been taught Chinese, you're not going to be able to automatically speak Chinese, right? Same goes for gardening, for growing your own food, for growing your own hemp. If you haven't done it before, you're going to need to learn how. And each person learns differently through unique combinations of learning modalities. And for some people, hands-on learning, experiential learning is one of their favorite methods. And I am one of those people who really enjoys getting her hands dirty, which is one of the reasons why I moved to Vermont and got into herbalism and gardening in the first place. So what is soil? So soil is a mixture of organic matter, minerals, gases, liquids, and organisms. So by about 2050, 90% of Earth's soils could be degraded. This is going to put millions of species at risk of extinction, which would include us. So from a purely selfish perspective, one could say that saving soil is very important. So how do you know that you have healthy soil? So one way, just visually speaking, to look at your soil to see if it's healthy, what color is it? Is it a dark brown, almost black color, a rich color, or is it more sandy and dry with no live matter in it? No earthworms, no fungi, no other plants. Some people would look at this garden and say, oh my God, there's so much weeding to do, which there is, but I allow for a lot of these things to grow in because it brings up the minerals that are deeper in the soil below the topsoil. Especially with dandelion here, for example, it is known for bringing calcium up. And burdock, which we have right here, also has an incredibly deep taproot that brings up minerals from below the topsoil layer, as well as serving to loosen the soil deeper below, where it's harder. So again, we want to look for the humulus formation, the earthworms, other different types of bugs, even ants can be healthy. We want to look at the color of the soil. We want to look at what kind of plants are growing there, and are they rich and are they vibrant. This is also my garlic patch from last year coming up. And so one of the ways that we can enrich our soil with organic matter rather than using chemical fertilizers is by allowing plants like burdock, which in Latin is Arctium, I can't speak tonight, Arctium napa, or also known as gobu root, and dandelion is Taraxacum officinale, diente de leon, lion's tooth. And so these are just two of a few different plants that you can grow in your garden to enrich the soil. If you're going to add organic matter to the soil, I've also used organic dehydrated mushroom compost, homemade compost. You can use alfalfa meal, kelp meal, other types of fungi inoculants, leaf mulch, which here in Vermont I use a lot of the maple leaf mulch, and worm castings, which you can also create your own beds for your own worm castings, which creates a very, very soft, very fine, very dark additive to your soil. So those are some of the things that you can do naturally. So what happens is, in healthy soil is alive. And we need the soil to be alive because it is the biodiversity and the synergy and the cycle of life that is what allows for the plants to access and suck up, basically to eat the nutrients and minerals that they need from the soil, as well as getting proper hydration and aeration, for example. And this system within the soil also helps with carbon sequestration. And so what happens when the chemical additives, like for example Scott's or Miracle-Gro, which was very popular growing up where I grew up in the suburbs, why that is not healthy is because for example, the blue crystals that are inside of those chemical fertilizers are derived from copper sulfate. So other than very severe cases of fungal disease, there's no need to use copper sulfate. It's also a bactericide, so it's going to kill all of the beneficial life in the soil, both the fungus and the healthy bacteria. So the reason the plants can grow is because the chemical fertilizer is packed full of nitrogen, chemically sourced nitrogen, which then outsources the natural job, the natural occurring function of the soil microbes, which then makes the plants dependent on the chemical additive, right? Not only, and that's not even accounting for what those chemicals do to the genetic structure, to modify the plants, and then how that modifies the human genome after we ingest it, especially after years and years of ingesting this stuff. And so when we look at cancer rates, and when we can compare like cancer rates nowadays to maybe 50, 60, 70 years ago, along with other things, including autism, we can see a correlation between the rise of use of these types of harmful chemical additives with the rise of health problems. And we can also see the correlation in the countries that use higher amounts of these chemical or agricultural processes. And not only do these chemicals, the negative effects of the copper sulfate and the heavy salts that are in these fertilizers, and the ammonium and water-soluble nitrates that come from the nitrogen that's in these chemical additives, it then also gets into the water and is one of the largest pollutants of our water supplies. And then it kills the fish. And then it also can cause the algae blooms, which can cause the sun to be blocked out, which causes dead zones, and so on and so forth. So just how the cycle of life is is a genius design, naturally, in and of itself. When we mess with that natural design, we destroy the beautiful fruits of that natural design, and including ourselves, as we are a part of that. We all are a part of the earth and come from this earth and to earth, and most of us will return. And so not only are plants like dandelion here and burdock good for the soil, they're also good for your body. For example, the dandelion is full of lots of different minerals and nutrients, and so is the burdock. The burdock contains quercetin, luteolin, phenolic acids. It helps to remove toxins from the blood and the liver. And dandelion, you can use the roots of both of the dandelion and the burdock in teas and tincture. It is very popular to eat the roots of the burdock. One example of a soul food type dish would be Jamaican burdock root. And we can also add dandelion greens in with collard green mixes, for example, as well as fresh salads and pickling both the leaves of the dandelion and the dandelion root, as well as being able to pickle the roots of the burdock. And so this information is helpful for gardening. It's also helpful if you're interested in learning about how to source your own wild foods. And it's also helpful if you're interested in increasing the nutrients in your own body and thus the vitality in your own life, not just in the soil. And because this is Soil and Soul, and today is Sunday, and part of what I would like to bring to you here is a plethora of eclectic sources about spirituality and soul from many different religions, practices, and regions of the world. My reason for wanting to do this is that I've always loved these studies and the pursuit of great spirit, of God, of a higher power that connects us all. And in a time when the world is so full of hate and fighting and confusion and war, any way that I can bring us together to the common threads that we have, whether it be soil or soul, I'm going to do that. And hopefully to bring people to that common knowledge, place, feeling of universal love. And so today is Sunday, today I'm going to quote a few passages from the Bible. As I've found lately, talking about religion or spirituality can be very controversial. And Yoda, come here, buddy. Come on. Come here, Yoda. Some people say God is a dog, right? Dogs are love. And so I think that when we're looking at the earth as sacred, and we are too, regardless of what your religious or lack of religious background is, a non-secular point of view would be that the earth is worthy and deserving of respect, and so are all the beings here. I read today a quote that said, "Jesus is the heart of the earth," and I personally love Jesus. However, my interpretation of Jesus and my interpretation of a lot of the things associated with Jesus don't always agree with other people who identify as Christians or believe in the Bible. And so I find myself often not talking about these things because of the controversy that they bring up. However, it brings joy to my heart, and it is a way that I have found peace in my life. And so I share this with you in hopes that it may spark that light and that love of life in you as well. And to help people who do identify as very strict or very conservative Christians of the necessity for environmentalism. And there is a green Christian movement. So on with the show. A few quotes that I have for you today to go along with soil and soul would be first from Genesis 1:28. "And God blessed them. And God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on earth." So when we have dominion over our children or over our home or over our workplace, we take care of those things. It doesn't mean to dominate and abuse. It means dominion in the sense of responsibility, trustworthy responsibility. So if you believe in God and in the Christian sense, my interpretation of this is that God gave us all of this in order to be fruitful and multiply, in order to care for it, in order to take the resources and the masterpiece that is the earth and to continue to add to its beauty and its glory. Then we have from, let's see here, we also have from Genesis 2:15. "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work and keep it." And from Corinthians 4:2, moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found trustworthy. So we are stewards of the land, and the whole earth is the Garden of Eden. We have heaven on earth already right in front of us if we only open our eyes and allow it to be what it is. Thank you very much for your time today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Soil and Soul, brought to you by Sacred Earth Essentials, home of Bloominations and Vermont Herb Shop and Yoda. Don't forget, the earth is sacred, you are too. Go in peace, plant some seeds, take care of some soil on whatever part of the earth you may be, and be a blessing. Bye now.